Hi. I have many, many, many stories. I'm not exactly going to tell my story per se this time. Instead, I'm speaking on a subject that kind of rankled up in me and possessed me for a while, so that I was waking up in the middle of the night and writing in the dark about it. My mother tells me that when she was a little girl, the end of the world had been predicted, and everyone in her small town in Northern California gave their furniture away to each other. Then they went at sunrise onto a certain hill and waited and waited. The sun rose and no mayhem came with it. The birds chirped, the bumblebees purred, and so they had to go back down the hill and round to all the neighbors to get their furniture back. Throughout history, people have been in love with the idea of the end of the world. In Christian mythology, Armageddon is the battlefield where the war of good and evil takes place on the last day. I won't go into the good and evil thing. I think evil is just good which got dropped on his head when he was a kid, in some life or other. It's good snoring and wrapped in scabs. The original meaning of the word sin actually is missing the mark. But I will address the end of the world. I'm fed up with it. It's not just Christians who go on about it. There's the Mayan calendar and Nostradamus and the earth shifting on its axis and all kinds of things. I have a friend named John Hogue who's a writer on the subject of Nostradamus, the medieval French prophet, who apparently has much to say about current political situations, very convincingly. But John, too, says the world is not going to be smote upside the head one day with fire and so on, of whatever provenance. Succinct metaphor is taken literally by the unsophisticated, and that's the problem with ancient scripts of all sorts, which are written in symbolism for brevity so that they can be spoken and passed on that way. What man often does to man is beyond horrendous, but suppose ultimately man does not altogether smite. So why does that disappoint us? The real question is, why do we love apocalypse? Perhaps we are tired of not being our authentic selves. And we long for cessation, the way day finally longs for night. But extinction is not the answer to bad habits. The real Greek meaning of apocalypse, by the way, is revelation or enlightenment, and it's come to mean obliteration. Yes, there is meaning in the concept of obliteration, but in the sense that one's burden, one's mind, one's idea of self is obliterated in the ecstasy of dancing joy when one comes home to one's center. At the center, the tiresome noise of daily life is gone, and one's arms reach out to the all. Something of that I can say from my own experience, or I wouldn't be saying it. Something. I have heard that Jesus, in his last 12 years, journeyed to India and studied with sages. There he saw that the doctrine of reincarnation had made Hindus lazy and slovenly, for they felt, and still feel, what's the hurry? We'll get enlightened in some life or other. Is that right, Pratap? So Jesus created the idea of there being only one life, to light a fire under people so they would be in a hurry for salvation or enlightenment, and they'd wake up faster. He succeeded too well. The Western world is in a mad hurry. Starbucks is the real temple. Everybody's afraid. Death is coming, and what have I accomplished? And if death is really the end, there will be a strange fascination with it. These are not the Eastern attitudes. I see Judgment Day as the collective fascination with death. It's just a misunderstanding. It's hard for us to grasp, but Blackfeet physics sees time as a circle, as do Eastern religions. My meditation master said there are always at least 12 possible solutions to any problem. Never forget this. I extend and interpret this to mean there are always at least 12 possible futures. Prophecy is a dangerous pursuit. Negative prophecy is, in my view, a criminal one. When I taught psychic reading, I cautioned my students above all things never to make a negative prediction. What do we know? Who do we think we are to give a person or all humanity a life sentence or a death sentence? We are vulnerable, ridiculously suggestible beings. It is our greed for the future which reaches, clutching fingers out, and taints that future. Anything at all to avoid the present and its empty center of bliss. For the future has not happened. It will never happen. It is always now. This then is my rebuttal to those who cry ultimate doom. I don't even care if I am right or not. I don't care about the impressive credentials of those who so cry. So I, one small person, can stand up and say, suppose there is no Armageddon, making the poor sky weep and redden. Suppose things go on getting better, like merry, winsome, springy weather. Everybody marries, though none feel tethered. Everybody else, producing a lovely, fragrant brew, chocolate-based with cream of moo. Suppose the quakes of earth subside, save as amusement for the ride. Tectonic plates stay in the cupboard, unused for dinner. So stays cool and unfried the sinner. Suppose that no tsunamis bite wings off beaches, sandy bright. Suppose the jostled tipping seas quiet down like kids when faced with peas, and hurricanes pass by the door, uninclined to veer their roar. Suppose sin dies and churches shut up, becoming places where we sup and sit with silence's loving cup, and afterwards create a din by dancing wild. Is that a sin? Suppose the air pollution peels back to show Ezekiel's wheel, like a sparkler for the world's third eye, and all the smog stuff by and by drifts off to some far other where, tucked behind a star out there, like a straying wisp of hair. And if you look, you'll think it is some other constellation's biz. Suppose schools teach us to go out without our clothes all round about, and how to love ourselves and others, sisters, mothers, fathers, brothers, neighbors, friends, and cats and dogs, and maybe even feral hogs. Suppose that dancing in the halls is taught along with dismantling the walls. Suppose the fresh and grass-green day smiles on children as they play, and cafeterias serve grains grown organically on the plains, colorful vegetables and fruits, and sumptuous salads too, to boot. Suppose no thunder's standing nigh. Suppose doom nuts fell out of the sky and slunk to burrows underground and forgot the rest of us to hound. Suppose they just all shut right up about God's whip raised up to whup, about the flames and all that crap. Suppose they all just took a nap. Suppose things blossom friendlily and we come out of our house to see and clasp so soft a neighbor's hand and walk the sprouting rain-fed land, thus thwarting all obesity. Suppose the heart attacks of fate had been out drinking till rather late and just didn't feel like rising with the sun all self-despising. Suppose they joined the strokes and lumps and swam to some celestial dump. Suppose we whispered in each other's ear all the things we'd longed to hear, of love and care and sweetness bare and shivering thrills like cat stretchings on a chair. Suppose all things a heart could need were spoken in this simple deed, and friends did hug and enemies too, since all are just like me and you. Suppose no world's ending tries our trust and strangles us to foretold dust. Suppose it just keeps getting better, like receiving a snail-mailed loving letter, all plump with words like flavor cells, like peace will sit with Tibetan bells. Suppose the world goes on, circling from dusk till dawn, circling back from end to start. Suppose the world's a beating heart, no stranger has the right to blame. Suppose this heart is like a flame, renewed with vigor like a spring, from fire to water, called to sing, and sing it does in wilt and pearl, a stream, a wave, a tender curl of blue upon the space backdrop. What is the need for it to stop? Suppose the dino tread swung nigh from its hatchland in the sky, then elected just to snort on by, meandering out to cause some grief, aborting novas like a thief. Or suppose dinosaurs with teeth so great arrive to scourge us rather late. They've paused to eat some other meat and postpone the appointed hour. And when they come like rumbling towers, they're already full and can be paid off with a song and a colorful dessert of flowers. Suppose the sea monster from the lake does not his awful bludgeon take, his tail a club, a tank, a rake, but leaves wet footprints on the road like dinner plate-sized plopping toads, and climbs the hill and crests the view on his way to me and you, and stops, bethinks himself again. Why mess with messy, massing men? I'll turn back to my soothing home and leave you milling twigs alone. Suppose all those who tell the tale of Armageddon's bitter hail use their breath to plump the sails of a joy bark to drift the lake where lovers do their ladies take. Suppose instead of godly angst, we fervently do all give thanks for all our limbs and all our eyes and tears of love, all undisguised, for avocados, prunes, and seeds of sunflowers, big as dinosaurs feed, for all the carrots, all the fruits, and sexy velvet winter suits, and scarves and hats and opera coats, rock operas where lovers leap the moats. Suppose the fiery end evaporates. It lost its agenda with the dates, and instead you get up on the right side of the bed and don your slippers and inhale and sing some song you love so well. Roll over Beethoven or the like. Then go on your jet motorbike and stop to watch the grapes grow ripe. Suppose divine elution helps us go out of grim and into grow, helps us love our neighbors, though they're harder to love than a murder of crows. And even that old so-and-so across the street gives off a glow. Suppose we find that we're divine, and not duludist, just sort of nudist Buddhists. Without the past nose interfering, without the priestly pulpit peering. Suppose love and God and earth are one, every devil, every crumb, every ant and each eyelash, part of the source's ready cash. Suppose that time is not a line, but all at once, and with a bump, we find we're here, have never left, and therefore we are not bereft. Suppose there is no Armageddon. Suppose instead there is a wedding, and we all go and kiss the bride, and all the grooms are us inside, and eat we delicacies washed down with all of the champagne in town. Suppose the festive trees make fruit for every eye and every tooth, pears, apples, mangoes, pears of gold. Pomegranates like jewels of old, kiwis, bananas, oranges round, persimmons squishy pound on pound, 10 different sorts upon a tree like tourmalines. The hues range free. That is just the tree for me. Supposing people we think odd, we're actually rubbing toes with God, or rubbing toes with his elbows, assuming God is just within. So that's our in-laws and our kin we've rather been ashamed to see nestled up with you and me. Does this inspire horror in your inner flotsam jetsam bin? Well, hold a mirror to your light and see the things inside held tight you've projected onto those you know. Then breathe them in and let them go. Suppose that babies born these days grew up just to twirl and praise their lot in life and decorate with cleverness their family's fate. Suppose that people's eyes were coaxed to gaze upon a heavenly host within their own hearts beating near. Suppose we cast away all fear and strode to boogie in the road while coyotes romped and hopping toads. Suppose we were allowed to gaze right upon the shining face of our own hara inside out. Suppose we were also allowed naked breasts with stained glass love shining on us like a pulpit, but so bereft of rhetoric. Suppose by firelight we dined, fluorescence cast away to pine in loneliness beneath the sea on a planet far, discovery of which is still to be. Suppose at night we looked at the stars instead of idiots on TV. Suppose that wild beasts from far sidled near and gave their confidences in our ear. Suppose the swaying hips of girls daily chance to turn and twirl, delighting everybody's eye. Enjoy our breakfast, creative our lunch, dinner held with gems, a bunch, decorating womankind everywhere that folks do dine. Nobody's poor, so none do hold the peace of another's precious soul. Suppose all landscapes come to be compendiums of sheer pleasantry, without the gas stations, convenience stores, and myriad types of ocular sores. Suppose our vehicles were powered by puffs of air, transporting us along grass roads upon the gusts. Flowers bend below the passing, but are not harmed. There is no gassing. No more asphalt, no more grime, no more race to catch up time. Singing comes between the trees. Someone's happy. Is it me? Suppose lines dissolve from off the map, and wanderers receive no crap, no passports thicken up their bags, and no one smokes, so neither packs of fags. And anyone who likes can roam and be welcomed by others in their homes. Suppose the beautiful planet wide was all our playground, none collide over details of a barrier's route. Wouldn't that just be a hoot? Suppose the bearded ranters bow, lay down their signs, forget just how they came to be so mad at life they want destruction for a wife. Suppose instead of brood, they dance, tattered robes all happenstance, arms akimbo in the air, placards thrown, shut tight the stare. And then they rest their sweaty backs and have a weep for all the cracks they'd forced in others' nights and days, and then lie back and silent go, like insect life on tippy-toe, studying up on facts within, and slowly shake and wake up then. Suppose all farts of every stripe, generals, presidents, the like, get down from podiums and debate quite personally with those they hate, the other grubby, orid fiends. And then, close held within a room, the 2 or 6 or 10 who doom we humbler mortals with a word have to duke it out, the turds, fist to fist, no guns allowed, just old men battling, not too loud, for one by one they will succumb to others' muscles, pinched or fat, as fleshy flying fists do flap, and gazing at their foolish foes, each one will see himself, oh woe. Then maybe they will creep to do service to those they used to screw, and clatter the plates, upon the grates of the huge efficient dishwashing machines each village sports, they're within all means. Suppose there is no sudden blast obliterating all the past, destroying worlds within an hour, while self-important prophets flower, chest expanded as they glower, pointing fingers in the gloom, while God up in his living room shifts his bottom on his chair, causing mayhem more to flare. Or is it devil who's supposed to turn the rest of us to toast? I have forgotten. All I know is those who want it have to go towards it with their chin jut out, welcoming apocalyptic clout, so they can stand and be the ones who did foresee the fearsome tons of molten ore come crashing down on each village, city, town. To hell, you grim, bombastic creeps, for that's where you already sleep. Suppose all zealots chance to take a look at how their nostrils shake when they're chanting out their hate. Suppose that they then feel the hand of something soft and sweetly grand touch upon their heart of stone, and each in his own way atone. And most of all, they find a way to shut their mouths up every day, and instead just hold and hold the love of others in their fold. Then what remains within all lands is do your thing as best you can, the job you love, or 2 or 3, or sit there just beneath that tree and watch the water in the lake and maybe a cooling dip to take. Suppose the stranger on the bus strokes your hair back with no fuss. Suppose one look is all it needs to say a world, you'll be received. Suppose we all, for goodness sakes, are cuddled as much as we can take. Suppose the trees speak and the sky and little pebbles lying by, and foxes, trout, and thistledown tell their hearts with scarce a sound. Suppose our ears were big enough to listen to this tender stuff, to magnify the lens of gold vibrant in our aural fold, so that sight and sound and taste mingle without any haste, and we a kettle drum are made to resonate with thrum and fade. Suppose there is no judgment day. Suppose that what was meant by that is this minute where you're at. If you close your eyes and see, are you off? Did you lose the key to your own heart? Then you are judged, not by moralistic sludge, but in the light of present breath, you've taken warp and left the weft. Just shift a very small degree back to center, and you'll see the whole day sets itself to rights. You'll not feel to start a fight. You'll gaze about you with a shine and hug the next near person fine. Suppose that judgment is right now. And judgment is not exactly how I would describe it. No, indeed. There's none to say you've grown a weed. Just feel yourself, and if you're off right now, this moment, do not scoff. This moment is just all there is to renegotiate your biz. Close your eyes, that helps a lot, and settle leftwards just a jot. And here you are, just you and you, breathing like stitches as they sew the cloth of life up to itself. And when you return, you are an elf, scampering on an emerald isle. When you awake, you are a child, shining-eyed and quick of hug. You are as shiny as a bug, as dreamy smooth as chocolate milk, as happy as a robe of silk. For Armageddon doesn't know the queenly reign of soul awake, residing at our very core. All else is just a crashing bore. Armageddon's got a stake in scaring children, which includes every chick and every dude, every elder, every prince. Armageddon's to convince us to behave in such and such a way. Your deep inside must have a say on this subject, for it knows how lyrical the real breeze blows. It guides you if you listen up, respecting your own personal lineup of lines and lays and dancy tunes, of silent gaps and humming runes. Armageddon's our own fists, raised to contemplate our wrists, with a razor standing by to kill our own dear self. But why? Flush that thought and face the way. Death will come, but not a day assigned to all and everyone. Death is something that we face, imbuing all our life with grace. We have our time, or times, you see, punctuated by eternity, so we can freshen up our face, like withdrawing to the restroom for a pee with girlfriends away from our patient men. Meanwhile, what's the hurry, y'all? You just want the end of the masquerade ball. So pull on up your mask yourself right now and gaze upon your plight this very self-same glowing night. And if you give yourself a fright, well, there are waste bins in the void wherein to dump your adenoids, mucus, and all your other gack. For nothing does this cosmos lack.